You work hard every single day. You wake up early, you stay up late, you do what you are supposed to do. But somehow at the end of the month, the money is always gone. The bills are paid, maybe. The rent is covered, maybe. But there is nothing left. Nothing saved, nothing growing. Just zero. And you tell yourself, next month will be different. But next month comes, and it looks exactly the same. So you work harder. You take extra hours. You cut small things, the coffee, the dinner, out, the little pleasures. And still the number in your account stays small. Still the fear stays. Still the feeling that money is something that happens to other people, not to you. Here's the truth. The problem is not your job. It is not the economy. It is not bad luck. The problem lives somewhere most people never look. It lives inside your mind. Your bank account is a reflection of your beliefs, not your effort, not your education, not how many hours you worked this week. Your beliefs. The invisible rules you carry about what money is, what you deserve, and what is possible for you. This lesson is for English learners who want more than just words. It is for anyone who is tired of working hard and still feeling behind. Today we are going to go to the root. Not the symptoms, the root. Because if you fix the root, everything above the ground starts to change. By the end of this lesson, you will understand something that most schools never teach. Most parents never say. Most people go their entire lives without knowing. And that one thing, that single shift in how you think, is the difference between a life of financial stress and a life of financial freedom. This is not about budgets. It is not about spreadsheets or investment accounts or cutting your daily expenses down to zero. This is about what lives inside your head. This is about the story you tell yourself every time you look at your bank account, every time someone asks about money, every time you see someone else building wealth and think, that is not for someone like me. That thought, that one thought, that is what we are here to change today. Because here is what I know. You are not broke because you are lazy. You are not broke because you are unlucky. You are not broke because the world is unfair, though sometimes it is. You are struggling because no one ever sat you down and told you the truth about how wealth actually begins. It does not begin in a bank. It begins in a decision. A decision about who you are and what you are worth. And that decision starts right now. If you are serious about changing your financial life, not just reading about it, not just watching videos about it, but actually changing it, subscribe to this channel right now. Because what we talk about here goes deeper than tips and tricks. We talk about transformation. Your mind decides your money. Remember that. We are going to come back to it again and again today. And by the time this lesson is over, you will understand exactly why. Let's begin. Lesson 1. Your mind was programmed, and you didn't choose the program. Let me ask you something. When you were a child, what did the adults around you say about money? Maybe you heard, "We can't afford that." Maybe you heard, "Money doesn't grow on trees." Maybe you heard nothing at all, because money was a topic that no one talked about. It was private. It was shameful. It was something adults argued about in quiet voices behind closed doors. You were a child. You were listening. And your brain was recording everything. Here is what most people don't understand about the human mind. Your beliefs about money were not chosen. They were absorbed. Before you were old enough to think critically, before you had any real experience with earning or saving or building wealth, your mind was already being programmed by the people around you, by the things they said, by the things they didn't say, by the way they reacted when a bill arrived or when someone in the family spent too much. You didn't write that program, but you have been running it ever since. Carol Dweck, a psychologist at Stanford University, spent decades studying how people think about their own abilities. She found something remarkable. People with a fixed mindset believe their qualities are carved in stone. You either have talent or you don't. You are either good with money or you aren't. But people with a growth mindset believe that abilities can be developed, that the brain is not a fixed machine, it is a living thing that changes with experience and effort. Stay with me, because this applies directly to your wallet. If you grew up hearing that money is difficult, that rich people are greedy, that people like us don't get ahead, then you developed a fixed money mindset. Not because you were weak, not because you were foolish, because that is what your environment taught you. Your brain did exactly what brains are designed to do. It learned from the people around it. But here is the part that changes everything. A belief that was learned can be unlearned. A program that was installed can be replaced. Your mind is not locked. It never was. A person who avoids money talk stays confused about money forever. A person who studies money begins to understand it. And the moment you begin to understand something, you begin to have power over it. Not the other way around. Think about the messages you received as a child. Not to blame your parents. They taught you what they knew. They passed on the programming they received. But now you are an adult. Now you have the ability to look at those old beliefs and ask, is this true? Is this actually true? Or is this just a story I've been carrying for so long that it feels true? We can't afford it is a statement that closes the mind. It ends the conversation. It teaches a child that lack is fixed, that the wall is permanent, that there is no door to look for. But how can we afford it is a question, and questions open doors. Questions put the brain to work. Questions are where wealth begins. You didn't choose what you believe about money, but you can choose to change it. That is not a small thing. That is everything. Lesson 2. You will never out-earn your self-image. Here is a pattern that almost nobody talks about. A person earns more money. They get a raise. They find a better job. They start making numbers they used to dream about. And then, slowly, quietly, without even noticing, the money disappears again. The lifestyle grows, the spending grows. The stress stays exactly the same. Sometimes it gets worse. They didn't save more. They didn't invest more. They just found more expensive versions of the same problems. This is not laziness. This is not stupidity. This is something deeper. Something operating below the surface. You will never out-earn your self-image. Read that again. Not with your eyes, with your mind. You will never consistently keep more money than you believe you deserve. You will never build more wealth than your internal picture of yourself allows. Because the moment your bank account grows past that invisible ceiling, something inside you finds a way to bring it back down. A sudden expense, an impulsive purchase, a generous decision that leaves you empty. A reason. The mind always finds a reason. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors in history, began investing at 11 years old. Not with a lot of money, with small savings, with patience. With a self-image that said, I am someone who builds, not spends, not reacts, builds. He lived in the same modest house for decades after becoming a billionaire, not because he couldn't afford more. Because his identity was never tied to showing wealth, it was tied to building it. Listen carefully. Most people have the relationship backwards. They think that when they have more money, they will feel like a wealthy person. But that is not how it works. You have to feel like a wealthy person first. You have to think like one, decide like one, carry yourself like one, before the money follows. The identity comes first. The result comes second. He woke up and asked, "How do I grow this?" He studied. He waited. He said no to things that felt good in the moment but cost him in the long run. He built an identity around patience and discipline long before the numbers reflected it. Most people do the opposite. They earn and they spend to feel successful. The new phone, the new car, the dinner that was too expensive but felt good to pay for. Each purchase a small message to themselves and to others. Look, I have arrived. But the account says otherwise, and deep inside, they know it. Your self-image is the thermostat of your financial life. When the temperature drops below what you believe you deserve, you find ways to earn more. Good. But when the temperature rises above your internal setting, you find ways to spend it back down. Sometimes without even knowing you are doing it. So the question is not, how do I earn more? The question is, who do I believe I am? What kind of person do I see when I close my eyes and think about my financial future? Is that person calm, confident, building something? Or is that person always one emergency away from zero? Because that picture, that inner picture, is what your actions will always move toward. The number in your account will never grow past the number in your head. Change the number in your head first. Everything else follows. Lesson 3. The Two Brothers. Same start, different minds. I want to tell you about two brothers. They grew up in the same house, same neighborhood, same parents. Same tired walls, same small kitchen, same feeling at the end of every month when the money ran out before the month did. They heard the same arguments. They felt the same tightness in the air when the bills arrived. They started from exactly the same place, same road, same beginning. Watch what happens next. The older brother Marcus left home at 18 with almost nothing, a bag, a bus ticket, and a head full of everything he had heard growing up. Money is hard to get. People like us don't get rich. You work, you survive, you be grateful for what you have. He believed all of it, not because he was weak, because he had heard it every day for 18 years, and no one had ever told him otherwise. He worked hard, but every time a little extra money came in, it left quickly. A new television, helping a friend, a reason. There was always a reason, and Marcus told himself it was fine. I'm not materialistic, he said. I don't care about money. But caring about money and managing money are not the same thing. Avoiding money is not freedom from it. Avoiding money is surrender to it. Now think about this. What if the problem was never the money? What if the problem was the story Marcus carried about what he deserved? The younger brother Daniel left home 2 years later. Same bag, same bus, same empty pockets. But somewhere along the way, Daniel had gotten his hands on a book, then another, then another. Not expensive books, library books, free. And those books told him something nobody in his house had ever said out loud, that wealth is a mindset before it is a bank balance. Daniel didn't earn more than Marcus at first. In fact, for several years he earned less. But he made different decisions. He saved before he spent. He asked questions instead of making statements. He looked at people who had built something, and instead of feeling envy or bitterness, he felt curiosity. How did they do that? What did they think? What did they decide? If you spend everything you earn, you stay where you are. If you save before you spend, you begin to move. If you treat every small decision like it matters, because it does, you start to build something that compounds. Consumers spend first and save what is left. Builders save first and spend what is left. That single difference in order, not in amount, is where two completely different financial lives begin. 10 years later, Marcus was still working hard and still feeling behind, still surviving, still telling himself that money wasn't important. Daniel had built a small business. Nothing dramatic, nothing that made the news, but he owned something. He had options. He had margin in his life. Same parents, same childhood, same starting point, same road, different direction. The only difference was the decision made inside. I am not telling you this story to make you feel behind. I am telling you this story because you are not Marcus yet, not permanently, because Marcus's story is not finished, and neither is yours. The moment you decide to think differently, the moment you pick up the book, ask the question, save before you spend, that is the moment your direction changes. It is never too late to become Daniel. It is a decision, not a circumstance. Lesson 4. Scarcity is a habit, not a fact. There is a feeling that many people who grew up without money know very well. It is not just the feeling of not having enough. It is the feeling that there will never be enough, that even when things get better, it won't last, that the floor could fall away at any moment, that you should hold tight, spend carefully, and never expect too much, because expecting too much is how you get hurt. That feeling has a name. It is called scarcity thinking. And here is what most people miss. Scarcity thinking does not go away when the money arrives. It stays. It moves in with you. It sits at your kitchen table. It whispers in your ear, even when your account has more than it ever did before. Because scarcity thinking is not about your bank balance, it is a habit of mind. And habits do not disappear on their own. Think about what scarcity thinking actually does to a person. It makes you afraid to invest because what if you lose it? It makes you afraid to spend on things that would grow your life because that feels irresponsible. It makes you hold so tight to what you have that you never let your hands be open enough to receive more. You protect yourself from loss so completely that you also protect yourself from gain. Scarcity thinking protects you from nothing and costs you everything. Oprah Winfrey grew up in genuine poverty, not the kind people talk about casually, real poverty. She wore potato sack dresses as a child. Her family had almost nothing, and the world she grew up in gave her every reason to believe that lack was permanent, that her circumstances were her destiny, that people from where she came from did not build empires. She built one anyway. Not because she was lucky, not because someone handed her an opportunity and said, "Here, take this," but because somewhere inside her, in spite of everything her environment taught her, she held a different belief, a belief that she was not defined by where she started. That scarcity was her beginning, not her identity. That the story was not finished. 99% of people let their environment write their story. The 1% decide to write it themselves. Now think about your own life. Where is scarcity thinking costing you right now? Not in dramatic ways, maybe, but in small ones. The investment you didn't make because it felt too risky. The course you didn't take because it felt too expensive. The conversation about money you avoided because it made you uncomfortable. Each of those small decisions made from scarcity adds up, day after day, year after year. The compound effect works in both directions. Small, courageous decisions build freedom. Small, fearful decisions build a cage. The shift from scarcity to abundance is not about pretending you have more than you do. It is not positive thinking that ignores reality. It is a genuine change in how you see possibility. Scarcity says the pie is fixed. If someone else gets a piece, your piece gets smaller. Abundance says the pie can grow. Your job is not to protect your slice. Your job is to grow the whole thing. If this lesson is hitting you, if something in these words is landing in a real way, hit subscribe right now, because this is only the beginning. There is so much more ahead, and the people who stay, who keep showing up for this kind of thinking, are the people whose lives actually change. Your mind decides your money. Scarcity is a habit, and habits can be broken. Not overnight, not without effort, but they can be broken. Starting with the decision made right now to stop letting an old feeling run your financial future. Lesson 5. What you fear, you can never control. Tell me if this sounds familiar. The bank notification comes, you see it on your phone, and instead of opening it, you put the phone down. Maybe later. You open the email from your credit card company, and you close it before you read the numbers. You walk past the ATM, and you don't check your balance, because knowing feels worse than not knowing. You avoid the conversation about money with your partner, your family, your own mind, because every time it comes up, something tightens in your chest, and you just want it to stop. This is not carelessness. This is fear. And fear of money is one of the most common and most costly things a person can carry. Because what you avoid, you can never understand. And what you don't understand, you can never control. And what you can't control will always control you. Pause for 1 second. Think about that cycle. Avoidance leads to ignorance. Ignorance leads to helplessness. Helplessness leads to more fear. More fear leads to more avoidance. Around and around, year after year. While the numbers stay the same or get worse, and you tell yourself there is nothing you can do. There is always something you can do. But you have to be willing to look first. David Goggins grew up in a home full of fear and pain. As a young man, he was overweight, in debt, working a job he hated with no clear direction and no belief that his life could be different. He had every reason to keep avoiding, to keep looking away from the hard things, to keep telling himself that this was just how life was for someone like him. Instead, he looked directly at the hardest things. Not because it felt good. It didn't. It felt terrible. He looked because he understood something that most people never do. You cannot run from a problem and solve it at the same time. You have to stop, turn around, face it. A closed mind asks, "I can't afford it," and stops there. An open mind asks, "How can I afford it?" and starts moving. That single shift from a full stop to an open question is the difference between a mind that shrinks and a mind that grows. He wrote down every debt, every number, every uncomfortable fact about where he was financially and physically and mentally. Not to punish himself, to see clearly. Because you can't fix what you refuse to look at. Most people treat their finances the way they treat a pain in their body they are afraid to get checked. If I don't know what it isn't real. But it is real. It was real before you looked, and it will be real after. The only thing that changes when you look is that now you have information, and information is power. Open your last bank statement right now. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. You will never feel ready. Open it now. Look at the numbers, all of them. Don't judge yourself. Don't explain yourself. Just look. Because a person who looks at their financial reality, even when it is painful, even when it is embarrassing, is already ahead of the person who closes the screen. You can't fix what you refuse to look at. Fear keeps you blind. Courage, even small courage, even just the courage to open one email, turns the light on. And once the light is on, you can start to work. Lesson 6. The woman who is afraid of her own wallet. I want to tell you about a woman named Maria. Maria worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. She cleaned offices in the early morning before the sun came up, and she worked a second job in the evenings at a small restaurant near her apartment. She was not lazy. Nobody who knew Maria would ever call her lazy. She was one of the hardest working people in every room she entered. But every month, the money was gone. Not because she spent it on luxury, not because she was careless. The money went to rent, to food, to small things her children needed, to a cousin who needed help, to an emergency that always seemed to arrive just when she had saved a little. And when Maria looked at her bank account, which was rarely because looking made her stomach hurt, the number was always smaller than she expected. Always. Maria told herself she was bad with money. She said it like it was a fact about her, the way you might say, "I am short," or "I have dark hair." I am bad with money. Said it so many times it became identity. It became the story she lived inside of. But Maria was not bad with money. Maria was afraid of money. Those are two completely different things. Take a breath, because what I am about to say matters. Fear of money does not always look like panic. Sometimes it looks like generosity that goes too far, giving away what you cannot afford to give because having it feels uncomfortable. Sometimes it looks like avoiding financial conversations because deep down you feel ashamed. Sometimes it looks like spending quickly after you earn because holding money feels unfamiliar, even unsafe, like it doesn't really belong to you. Like it will be taken away anyway, so you might as well let it go first. Maria grew up watching her mother struggle, and her mother before her. The message she absorbed without words, without anyone explaining it, was this: money causes pain. Money causes arguments. Money causes shame. So somewhere deep inside Maria had decided, without knowing she decided it, that she did not want to be close to money. And so money stayed away. If the thought of checking your balance makes you anxious, that is information. If you feel guilty when you save something for yourself, that is information. If you give money away faster than it comes in, not always from generosity, but sometimes from discomfort, that is information. Your feelings about money are telling you something about the story you carry. Maria found a book at a community center, a free one. She almost didn't take it, but she did. And that book asked her a question she had never been asked before. What do you believe money will cost you if you have it? She sat with that question for 3 days, and slowly an honest answer came. She believed that having money would make her different from the people she loved, that it would create distance, that it would make her someone she didn't recognize. That belief was costing her everything. Your mind decides your money. When Maria understood that, something shifted. Not immediately, not dramatically, but she started to look at her bank account every week. Just look. No judgment, just information. She started to say no to requests she could not afford. Small no's, hard no's. And slowly, the number stopped shrinking the way it used to. She didn't need more money. She needed to stop being afraid of it. And maybe, if you are honest with yourself right now, you don't need more money either. Not yet. Maybe what you need first is to understand why money makes you feel the way it does. Because when you heal your relationship with money, money stops running away from you. Lesson 7. Small decisions are where your future lives. People wait for the big moment, the big raise, the big opportunity, the big investment that finally turns everything around. They put their hope in something large and dramatic that is coming someday to rescue them from where they are. And while they wait, the days pass. The small decisions pile up. And the future they are waiting for gets further away, not closer. Let me make this simple. Your financial future is not being decided in the big moments. It is being decided right now, in the small ones. Think about today. Already today you have made or will make somewhere between 20 and 30 decisions that involve money. The coffee you bought or didn't buy. The app subscription you forgot to cancel. The lunch you ate out instead of bringing from home. the small transfer to a savings account you told yourself you would do later. The call to compare insurance prices that you have been putting off for 3 months. Each one feels small. Each one feels like it doesn't matter. But add them up. Multiply them by 365. Multiply that by 10 years. Now you see the number. James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, writes about the power of systems over goals. Most people set goals. I want to save $10,000. I want to be debt-free. I want to build wealth. The goal is clear. But without a system, without the daily decisions that build toward that goal, the goal is just a wish, and wishes don't compound. Decisions do. The compound effect is simple. Small actions repeated consistently over time produce results that seem impossible until you see them happening. A person who saves a small amount every week without drama, without motivation speeches, without waiting to feel inspired, will outperform the person who makes 3 large dramatic financial moves per year and does nothing in between. Every time. Not sometimes, every time. Wealth is not built in the moments you feel motivated. It is built in the moments you act anyway. You saved a little this week, even though you didn't feel like it. Good. You said no to one unnecessary purchase this month. Good. You opened your bank statement and looked at the numbers, even though it was uncomfortable. Good. These are not small things. These are the things. These are exactly the decisions that, compounded over months and years, produce a financial life that looks nothing like where you started. Your future is built in small moments, not big ones. Here is a practical truth. The wealthy do not think about money less than other people. They think about it more, but differently. They think about it clearly, calmly, and consistently, not with anxiety, not with avoidance, with attention. With the same kind of daily attention a gardener gives to plants. A little water today, a little sun tomorrow. Check the soil, adjust, come back tomorrow, and do it again. Nobody plants a seed and then digs it up the next day to check if it grew. They trust the system. They show up every day. They are patient. Your financial life is a garden. And right now, today, you are deciding what to plant. Not someday, not when you earn more, not when the conditions are perfect. Today, with what you have, with the decisions available to you right now. Because the person who waits for perfect conditions never plants anything. And the person who plants something small today and tends to it and comes back tomorrow builds something real. Small, consistent, compounding. That is the formula. Not exciting, not dramatic, but it works every single time. Lesson 8. The moment you decide you are enough. There was a young man, 22 years old, living in a city he had moved to with big plans and bigger hopes. He had a good job for his age, better than most of his friends. He earned enough to save enough to invest enough to start building something real. On paper, he had everything he needed to begin, but every time his account grew past a certain number, something happened. An expensive night out with friends he didn't need to pay for, but did anyway. A purchase he justified with reasons that sounded logical in the moment, but felt hollow the next morning. A loan to someone who never asked him to lend, but who he offered to anyway. And the number would drop back down, back to where it felt familiar, back to where it felt safe. He did this for 3 years, earned well, stayed broke, and told himself the problem was the cost of living, the economy, bad timing. Hear me on this. The problem was not outside him. The problem was a belief so deep he didn't even know it was there. A belief that said, people like me don't keep money. People like me don't build wealth. That is for other people. Smarter people, luckier people, people who come from somewhere different. He was sabotaging himself, not consciously, not cruelly, but consistently. Because his identity had not caught up with his income, and identity always wins. The day things changed for him was not dramatic. It was a Tuesday. He was sitting alone, and he asked himself one honest question. What do I actually believe I deserve? Not what do I want, not what do I hope for, what do I believe in my bones that I deserve? And the honest answer surprised him. Less than this. He believed somewhere beneath all the ambition and the plans and the hard work that he deserved less than what he was trying to build. And so he kept destroying it. That Tuesday he made a decision. Not a financial decision, a deeper one. He decided that he was enough. That his background did not disqualify him. That where he came from was the beginning of his story, not the definition of it. That he was allowed to build something and keep it. A person who avoids their own potential stays small their entire life. A person who studies their own blocks and decides to move through them begins to grow in ways that surprise even themselves. The wealthy mindset is not about arrogance. It is not about believing you are better than others. It is about believing you are worthy of the life you are working toward. That the effort you are putting in deserves a result. That the sacrifices you are making are not foolish. That you are not crazy for wanting more. That wanting financial freedom is not greed. It is wisdom. Your mind decides your money. So let me ask you directly, what do you believe you deserve? Not what your goals say, not what your vision board says. What does the quiet voice inside you say when no one is listening? Because that voice, that belief is running your financial life right now. And it will keep running it until you decide to change it. You were never too poor to change. You were only too afraid to believe you could. That changes today. Not because of a magic formula, not because of a secret strategy, because you are sitting here right now choosing to think differently. And that choice, that single choice to think differently about who you are and what you deserve, is the most powerful financial decision you will ever make. It does not require money. It does not require a perfect situation. It requires only this: the decision that you are enough, that you are worthy, that your story is not finished, and that the next chapter is going to look different from the last one. Because it will. If you decide it will. We have covered a lot of ground today. Let me bring it back to what matters most. Your mind was programmed before you were old enough to choose. The beliefs you carry about money, about what you deserve, about what is possible for someone like you, were absorbed from the people and the world around you. You did not write that program, but you are the only one who can rewrite it. Your self-image sets the ceiling. You will never consistently keep more than you believe you deserve. The account grows, then something brings it back down. Not bad luck. Identity. Change the identity and the ceiling rises. Scarcity is a habit, not a fact. The feeling that there will never be enough is real. But it is a learned response, not a permanent truth. It can be unlearned. One small, courageous decision at a time. What you fear you cannot control. Avoidance feels like protection. It is not. It is surrender. Open the statement. Look at the numbers. Face the thing. Because you cannot fix what you refuse to see. And your future is being built right now. Not in the big dramatic moments you are waiting for. In the small decisions you make today, tomorrow, and the day after. Compounding quietly, growing slowly. Until one day you look back and the distance between where you started and where you are standing is almost impossible to believe. These are not complicated ideas, but they are not easy either. Because changing how you think is harder than changing what you do. It requires honesty. It requires patience. It requires the willingness to look at beliefs you have carried for years and say, "This is not serving me anymore." But you can do it. I know you can do it. Because you are here. You stayed, you listened, and people who stay and listen are the people who change. Now I want to ask you one question, and I want you to think about it seriously, not quickly, seriously. What is one belief about money that you grew up with? Something you heard, something you felt, something you absorbed as a child that you now understand was not true? What is the one belief that has been costing you the most? Tell me in the comments below. Not because it will be easy to write, but because naming it out loud, even in a comment, even to strangers, is the first step to releasing it. And releasing it is the first step to replacing it with something that actually serves the life you are building. Your mind decides your money. It always has, it always will. The question is no longer whether that is true. The question is what you are going to do with it. You were never too poor to change. You were only too afraid to believe you could. That ends today. You gave this lesson your time and your full attention. Keep listening daily, and your mind and your money will grow. See you in the next one.